Captain Jiho Kim was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started screaming through his ship. The Soul's Pride was a good ship, one of Earth's newer patrol vessels, and she had been his home for 3 years now. He set down his cup and walked quickly to the bridge where his crew was already working at their stations. "What do we have, Commander Park?" Jiho asked his second-in-command. Yunbi Park was the best tactical officer he had ever worked with, and she never got excited over small problems. "Sir, we are getting a distress signal, but it is not from any human ship," Yunbi said while looking at her screen. "The signal is weak and broken, but our computers say it is coming from the Altarian sector." Jiho knew about the Altarians. They were one of the bigger alien governments in this part of space. They controlled maybe 50 star systems and had one of the largest trade fleets in the galaxy. If they were sending distress signals, something very bad was happening. "Put it on speakers," Jiho ordered. The bridge filled with static, and then a voice came through. It was speaking in broken galactic standard, but the fear in it was clear even through the alien words. "This is Counselor Vextai of the Altarian Trade Federation. Our colonies are under attack. The Drakmori swarm has come, and they are destroying everything. Billions are dead. Please, if anyone can hear this message, we will give you anything. Our treasure, our technology, our ships. Just please help us." The message repeated 3 times and then cut to static. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Everyone had heard stories about the Drakmori swarm, but most people thought they were just scary tales to frighten children. They were supposed to be some kind of living ships that ate everything in their path. "Get me Admiral Choi at Earth Command, right now," Jiho said. Daehyun Choi was the head of the Earth Defense Fleet, and he would know what to do. It took 10 minutes to get the quantum communication link working. When Admiral Choi appeared on the main screen, he looked tired. He was an older man with gray hair, but his eyes were still sharp and focused. "Captain Kim, I assume you received the Altarian distress signal?" the Admiral asked. "Yes, sir." "Do we know if this Drakmori swarm is real?" Jiho asked. "Oh, it is real, Captain. We have been tracking reports of destroyed colonies for the past 6 months. Entire star systems have gone dark. No survivors, no debris, nothing left at all. Whatever these things are, they do not leave anything behind." Jiho felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "How many ships do the Altarians have, sir?" "They had about 3,000 warships last time we counted. If they are asking for help, then most of those ships are probably gone already." The Admiral paused and looked at something off-screen. When he turned back, his face was serious. "Captain, I am ordering you to return to Earth immediately. We are putting together the largest fleet we have ever assembled. Every available ship is being called back." "Sir, how many ships are we talking about?" Yunbi asked. 53 vessels, Commander Park. Everything we can get space-worthy in the next 12 hours. Jiho did some quick math in his head. 53 human ships against something that had destroyed 3,000 Altarian vessels. It did not sound like good odds, but he had learned to trust Admiral Choi's judgment. "Understood, sir." "Soul's Pride. We'll be back at Earth in 6 hours." "Good. And, Captain, make sure your crew gets some rest. Where we are going, there might not be time to sleep for a while." The communication ended, and Jiho turned to his crew. They were all looking at him with questions in their eyes. Hyuk Yoon, his communications officer, was the first to speak. "Captain, are we really going to fight these swarm things? I mean 53 ships against something that destroyed the Altarian fleet?" Jiho understood why his crew was worried. Humans had been part of the galactic community for only 20 years. Most alien species saw them as useful mercenaries, but not much more. Earth ships were tough and human soldiers were good fighters, but nobody thought they were special. "Lieutenant Yoon, do you remember why humans started exploring space?" Jiho asked. "Because we wanted to find new worlds to live on?" "No. We went to space because we heard radio signals from other civilizations and we wanted to meet them. We wanted to help them and learn from them. That has not changed." Salman Lee, the ship's engineer, looked up from her console. "But Captain, what if we cannot win? What if these swarm things are too strong?" Jiho thought about that question for a moment. He remembered his training at the Earth Defense Academy. The instructors there had taught them about human history, about all the times when humans had faced impossible odds and somehow found a way to win. "Engineer Lee, Do you know what makes humans different from other species? We are more violent, she guessed. No, lots of species are violent. What makes us different is that we do not give up. When something threatens people we care about, we keep fighting until either we win or we die trying. The Altarians called for help, and we heard them. That means they are people we care about now. The ship shuddered slightly as they dropped out, of faster-than-light travel. Earth appeared on the main screen, blue and beautiful and home to 8 billion humans. But Jiho could see dozens of other ships already gathering near the planet. Some were big battleships like the Terra's Wrath, and others were smaller vessels like his own Soul's Pride. Communications. Get me a channel to all ships in the fleet. Channel. Open, sir. This is Captain Jiho Kim to all Earth Defense Fleet vessels. In a few hours we are going to travel to the Altarian sector to face an enemy that has destroyed entire civilizations. Some of you might be scared, and that is okay. I am scared too. But I want you all to remember something. We are not just fighting for the Altarians. We are fighting for every species in the galaxy that cannot fight for itself. We are fighting to show the universe that someone still cares about right and wrong. Earth's children do not abandon people in need. He paused and looked around his bridge. His crew was looking back at him with new determination in their eyes. All ships prepare for fleet jump in 30 minutes. Admiral Choi will give us our final orders when we reach Altarian space. This is Captain Kim out. As the Soul's Pride moved into formation with the rest of the fleet, Jiho felt something he had not experienced since joining the Defense Force. For the first time, humans were not fighting for money or resources or territory. They were fighting because it was the right thing to do. And somehow that made all the difference. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Altarian space, and what they saw made everyone go quiet. Where there should have been busy trade routes and mining stations, there was nothing but wreckage floating in the dark. Pieces of alien ships drifted like metal snow between the stars. Captain Somin Lee stood on the bridge of her dreadnought Inchin's hammer and watched the sensor readings come in. She had been fighting pirates and raiders for 10 years, but she had never seen destruction like this. Entire planets had been stripped bare, their surfaces marked with huge spiral cuts that went deep into the rock. Captain, I am picking up a signal from the inner system, her communications officer reported. It is weak, but someone is still alive. In there. Put it on screen. The main display flickered and showed an alien unlike anything most of the crew had seen before. It looked like it was made of living crystal that normally would have glowed with bright colors. But now the light was dim and flickering like a candle about to go out. Human ships, is that really you? The alien asked. Its voice was shaking, with fear and hope. I am Counselor Vex Tai of what is left of the Altarian government. We did not think anyone would actually come. This is Captain Somin Lee of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress signal, Counselor. What is your situation? The alien's crystal form seemed to dim even more. Captain Lee, we had over 3,000 warships when the swarm arrived. Now we have maybe 200 survivors hiding in a space station around our capital world. The swarm has already consumed 14 of our worlds. Over 30 billion of our people are gone. Lieutenant Commander Hyuk Yoon, the fleet's expert on alien life forms, was studying the data streaming from Altarian sensors. What he saw made his blood run cold. The Drakmori swarm was not just an invasion force. It was something much worse. Captain, according to this data, the swarm ships are alive, he reported. They reproduce by eating matter and turning it into more warriors. They do not negotiate and they do not retreat. They just consume everything until there is nothing left. Admiral Daehyun Choi's voice came over the fleet communication system from his flagship Terra's Wrath. All ships, this is Admiral Choi. We are dealing with a threat unlike anything we have faced before, but that does not change our mission. We are here to help. He opened a direct channel to Counselor Vex Tai. Counselor, this is Admiral Choi of the Earth Defense Fleet. We are here to help, but we need to understand exactly what we are fighting. The alien leader seemed surprised that the humans were still willing to help after learning how powerful the enemy was. Admiral, the swarm has 800 bioships of different sizes. The largest ones are 15 kilometers long, and they have weapons that can crack the crust of a planet. They have already consumed the populations of 14 worlds, and they are heading for our core systems next, where billions more live. Captain Min Jae-oh was listening from his carrier, Busan Rising. His ship carried 200 of Earth's best fighter pilots, and he was already thinking about how to use them against living enemy ships. "Admiral, how long do we have before they reach the core systems?" "According to our sensors, maybe 18 hours, Vextai answered. "Admiral Choi, I know you humans are brave, but you only have 53 ships. We had 3,000 and we could not stop them. Perhaps you should evacuate as many civilians as you can instead of fighting." The communication channel was quiet for a moment. Every human in the fleet was thinking the same thing. The odds were terrible. They were outnumbered more than 15 to 1 by an enemy that had already proven it could destroy much larger fleets. But then Admiral Choi spoke, and his voice was calm and steady. "Counselor Vexatai, humans have a saying. We do not measure the size of the fight in the dog. We measure the size of the dog in the fight. Your people called for help, and we answered. We did not come here to run away." Captain Wu Jinbei of the Yu Saud medical frigate Compassion's Edge was already organizing rescue operations for Altarian survivors. "Admiral, what are your orders?" "All ships move to combat formation Alpha 7. We are going to show these swarm creatures what happens when they threaten innocent people." The Altarian counselor watched in amazement as the human fleet began to move. Instead of retreating like any sensible species would do, they were actually advancing toward the enemy. "Admiral, surely you do not mean to attack them directly. No species in the galaxy fights that way anymore. Modern warfare is about long-range attacks and tactical withdrawals." Commander Sung Jin Han of the destroyer Gwangju's Fury laughed over the communication channel. "Counselor, humans are not like other species. We come from a world where everything wants to kill us. We learned a long time ago that sometimes the best defense is a really good attack." The human fleet moved deeper into Altarian space, and the sensor readings of the approaching swarm became clearer. The bioships were massive and alien, covered in what looked like organic armor and bristling with weapons that pulsed with their own heartbeats. "All ships, this is Admiral Choi. I want everyone to understand what we are facing. These creatures have destroyed entire civilizations. They have killed billions of innocent beings. They think they can do whatever they want because no one has ever stood up to them before. Today we show them they are wrong." Captain Young-hee An of the assault carrier Jeju Storm was preparing her fighter squadrons for launch. Major Kyung-hwan Park, Captain Minji Ko, and Lieutenant Sulgi Lim were among her best pilots, and they were eager to test their skills against this new enemy. "Admiral, the swarm has detected our approach," reported the sensor operator on Terra's Wrath. "They are changing course to intercept us. Estimated contact in 4 hours. Good. That means they will come to us instead of continuing toward the civilian populations. All ships prepare for battle. And remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves today. We are fighting for every species in the galaxy that deserves to live in peace." Counselor Vextai watched the human preparations with growing amazement. These strange aliens from the small world called Earth were actually planning to fight the unstoppable swarm head-on. It was either the bravest thing he had ever seen or the most foolish. But as he watched the precise movements of the human fleet and listened to the calm professional voices of their officers, he began to think that maybe, just maybe, these Deathworlders might actually have a chance. The Drakmori swarm had never met humans before. They had no idea what they were about to face. The battle began 3 astronomical units away from the Altarian capital system. The Drakmori swarm approached with the confidence of predators who had never been challenged. Their bioships moved in flowing formations, like schools of deadly fish swimming through space. Captain Jiho Kim watched from the bridge of Soul's Pride as the enemy fleet grew larger on his sensors. Each swarm ship looked like something from a nightmare, covered in organic armor that pulsed with its own heartbeat. The largest ones were bigger than Earth's biggest cities, and they bristled with weapons that had destroyed entire worlds. "All ships, this is Admiral Choi," came the voice over the communication system. "Remember your training. These things are used to fighting civilized species who attack from long range. We are going to do something they have never seen before. We are going to get close and hit them hard." The Drakmori swarm expected the humans to do what every other species did when facing overwhelming odds. They expected them to fire a few long-range shots and then retreat when the return fire got too heavy. They had conquered dozens of civilizations this way, wearing them down slowly until their fleets were destroyed and their worlds were defenseless. But humans had evolved on a world where retreat meant death. For millions of years they had survived, by facing their enemies head-on and fighting until either they won or died trying. Captain Jiho led the first attack wave with 11 other frigates. Instead of staying at maximum weapons range like every military manual in the galaxy recommended, the human ships accelerated directly toward the enemy at full speed. The aliens watching from their space station around the Altarian capital could not believe what they were seeing. "They are flying straight at the swarm," Counselor Vextai whispered. "They must be planning to sacrifice themselves to give the larger ships time to escape." But the humans were not planning to sacrifice themselves. They were planning to win. The first Drakmori bioship to engage the human frigates was a medium-sized creature about 2 kilometers long. It opened fire with organic cannons that shot living projectiles designed to burrow into enemy hulls and eat the ship from inside. Sol's Pride took 3 hits, but her armor held. Then Jiho ordered his weapons officer to return fire. The kinetic accelerator cannon mounted on the front of his ship launched a solid metal projectile at 10%. The speed of light. The bioship simply vanished. One moment it was there firing at the human frigate, and the next moment it was an expanding cloud of organic debris. The explosion was so violent that it damaged several other swarm ships nearby. "What kind of weapons do these humans have?" Vextai asked in amazement. Commander Sungjin Han of the destroyer Guangzhou's Fury was coordinating the main attack. Human weapons technology had been developed on a world where everything was trying to kill you. Their kinetic accelerators could punch holes through asteroids. Their fusion warheads burned hotter than the core of a star. And their electromagnetic pulse weapons were designed to fry any kind of nervous system. The Drakmori had never faced weapons like these. Their organic armor that had protected them against standard galactic energy beams was useless against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Captain Younghee An launched her fighter squadrons from the assault carrier, Jeju Storm. Major Kyunghwan Park led Alpha Squadron in their attack run against a cluster of smaller bioships. The swarm fighters that moved to intercept them were in for a shock. Human pilots had grown up on a world where a moment of inattention meant being eaten by something with bigger teeth. Their reflexes were faster than any other species in the galaxy, and they flew their ships like they were extensions of their own bodies. Lieutenant Sulgi Lim rolled her fighter through a spiral that should have been impossible at that speed, and put 3 missiles into the brain cluster of a bioship, twice her size. The creature convulsed and died, its weapons falling silent. Captain Minji Ko dove her squadron through the explosion and engaged a group of swarm fighters that were trying to attack the human capital ships. The organic enemies were fast and deadly, but they had evolved to fight against predictable galactic standard tactics. The humans were anything but predictable. Captain Salmon Lee brought the dreadnought Inchin's hammer into the main battle. Her ship was one of the most powerful vessels in the Earth Defense Fleet, and she intended to use every bit of that power. The main battery opened fire on the largest bioship in the enemy formation. The Drakmori creature was over 10 kilometers, long and covered in armor that had shrugged off the combined firepower of entire Altarian battle groups. But it had never been hit by weapons designed to crack moons. The first salvo from Incheon's hammer punched through the bioship's armor like it was paper. The second salvo hit something vital deep inside the creature and it began to convulse. The third salvo tore it completely in half. Admiral Daehyun Choi watched the battle from the command bridge of Terra's Wrath. His tactical display showed the swarm formation beginning to break apart. The creatures that had terrorized the galaxy, with their unstoppable advance, were discovering what it meant to face an enemy that refused to be stopped. "All ships concentrate fire on the larger bioships," he ordered. "Do not let any of them escape to threaten other worlds." The human fleet moved through the enemy formation like a pack of wolves among sheep. Every shot found its target. Every maneuver was perfectly timed. Every decision was made with the cold precision of predators who knew exactly what they were doing. The Drakmori swarm tried to adapt to this new kind of warfare, but they could not. They had evolved to be perfect at destroying civilizations that fought the way all civilizations fought. They had no defense against enemies who fought the way Earth's children fought. Captain Woojin Bei of the medical frigate Compassion's Edge stayed back from the main battle, but his sensors recorded everything. What he saw would change how the galaxy thought about humans forever. It was not just that the humans were winning against impossible odds. It was how they were winning. There was no panic, no confusion, no desperate last stands. There was only the methodical destruction of an enemy that threatened innocent people. In 4 hours and 37 minutes, it was over. 800 bioships that had consumed entire civilizations were reduced to drifting organic debris. 53 human vessels remained operational with only minor damage. The battlefield fell silent except for the quiet hum of human engines and the amazed whispers of the Altarian survivors watching from their space station. "Is it over?" Counselor Vextai asked in a voice filled with wonder. "Are they really all dead?" "Confirmed," Admiral Choi replied. "The Drakmori swarm has been completely eliminated. Your people are safe now, Counselor." As the human fleet began search and rescue operations for any remaining Altarian survivors, word of the battle began to spread through the galaxy's communication networks. 53 ships from a small world called Earth had just accomplished what thousands of vessels from major galactic powers could not. The age of humans being seen as useful but unremarkable mercenaries was over. The galaxy was about to learn that they had been sharing space with apex predators who had been holding back out of politeness. The news traveled faster than light across the galaxy. Within hours, every major civilization knew that the unstoppable Drakmori swarm had been completely destroyed by a small human fleet. The recordings that Counselor Vextai broadcast to the Galactic Council showed something that most species thought was impossible. On the neutral world of Consortium Prime, representatives from 300 different species gathered in emergency session. The Great Council chamber had never been so full or so quiet. Everyone was watching the battle recordings over and over, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Ambassador Dongwu Shin sat in the human delegation area and watched as his inbox filled with thousands of messages. Every major power in the galaxy wanted to talk to Earth about military alliances, technology sharing, and defense contracts. In one day, humans had gone from being useful mercenaries to being the most feared and sought-after allies in known space. "The chair recognizes Counselor Vextai of the Altarian Trade Federation," announced the council speaker. The crystal being stood up and his form blazed with light. For the first time since the swarm attacks began, he looked healthy and strong. "Honored representatives, I stand before you as proof that miracles can still happen in our galaxy. The humans did not just defeat the Drakmori swarm, they annihilated it completely." A low murmur ran through the chamber. Several species had tried to fight the swarm before and all had failed terribly. What made this victory even more remarkable, Vexti continued, was what the humans asked for in return. Nothing. When we offered them our entire treasury, Admiral Choi said to keep it because we would need it to rebuild. When we offered them our technology, they said they only wanted medical supplies to treat our wounded and raw materials to repair their ships. High Marshal Keth Nara of the Zephyrian Empire stood up. The Zephyrians were the largest military power in the galaxy, and they had never admitted that any other species was their equal in warfare. "Counselor Vextai, are you telling this assembly that humans destroyed 800 swarm bioships with only 53 vessels?" "That is correct, Marshal, and they did it in less than 5 hours. The chamber erupted in surprised voices. Even the most optimistic military experts had thought it would take thousands of ships to stop the swarm. Dr. Hyejin Yu was attached to the human fleet as a specialist in alien cultures. She had been interviewing Altarian survivors to understand how the battle had affected them. What she learned was changing everything scientists thought they knew about how different species viewed violence. "The humans confused us at first," one Altarian refugee explained. "They were so gentle when they helped our wounded, so careful not to hurt anyone. But then we saw the battle recordings and realized that the same beings who were kindly carrying our children to safety had just committed genocide against our enemies." "Did that frighten you?" Dr. Yu asked. "No," the alien replied. "It gave us hope. For the first time, we understood that someone in the galaxy was strong enough to protect the weak and wise enough to know when to use that strength. Captain Wu Jin, Bei was coordinating the humanitarian relief efforts in the Altarian system. His medical teams were working alongside alien doctors to treat thousands of refugees. The sight of human soldiers gently helping wounded aliens was being broadcast across the galaxy, and it was having a powerful effect. "Look at them," whispered a Centaurian trade minister to his aide. They could demand anything from the Altarians, and they would get it. Instead, they are giving away their own medical supplies for free. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled through military might for 10,000 years, sent a delegation to meet with Admiral Choi. High Marshal Kethanara himself came aboard the Terra's Wrath to negotiate what everyone knew would be the most important treaty in galactic history. "Admiral Choi," the Marshal said in his deep voice, "my people have been the strongest warriors in the galaxy for longer than most civilizations have existed. We have never asked for help and we have never needed allies, but what you accomplished here changes everything." Admiral Choi was a career military man who had spent his life studying warfare. He understood what it meant for the Zephyrians to admit that another species was stronger than them. "Marshal, Earth has no desire to challenge Zephyrian authority in your territory. We came here to help the Altarians, not to conquer anyone. That is exactly why we want to ally with you," Kethanara replied. "Any species can learn to destroy things, Admiral. What makes humans special is that you know when not to destroy them." The treaty negotiations took place on a Zephyrian battleship in neutral space. Captain Soyeon Kim of the newly commissioned Soul's Honor represented Earth along with Admiral Choi. The terms they worked out would reshape galactic politics for generations. The Zephyrian Empire formally recognizes human military superiority and requests a mutual defense pact, Marshal Kethanara announced. "In exchange, we offer full access to our industrial base and our trade networks." News of the Zephyrian alliance sent shockwaves through every government in the galaxy. If the proud warriors were willing to admit human superiority, then everyone else needed to reconsider their relationships with Earth. Dr. Insu Han was appointed as Earth's chief advisor on alien relations. His job was to help human leaders understand how their victory had changed the way other species saw them. The reports he sent back to Earth were remarkable. 17 different hostile groups have surrendered or fled known space rather than risk fighting humans, he wrote. Pirate activities on major trade routes have dropped by 80%. Research stations in dangerous sectors are requesting human security teams. The psychological effect of our victory is as important as the military one. Commander Jiwoo Kang was put in charge of training alien officers to work alongside human crews. What started as a small program quickly grew into something much larger, as hundreds of species requested to send their best people to learn from Earth's military. "The humans do not just fight differently," reported a Altarian officer after his first training mission. "They think differently. When faced with an impossible situation, other species look for ways to survive. Humans look for ways to win." The Galactic Defense Compact was formed 6 months after the Battle of Altarian Space. It was based on what historians would later call the Soul Protocols, a set of rules for dealing with galaxy-threatening situations. The basic principle was simple. Those who could protect others had a responsibility to do so. Captain Ji-ho Kim, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, was chosen to command the new interspecies fleet. His first assignment was to establish defense stations in 12 different star systems where hostile forces had previously operated freely. "We are not here to rule anyone," he explained to a gathering of alien leaders. "We are here to make sure that what happened to the Altarians never happens to anyone else." The transformation was remarkable. Trade routes that had been abandoned due to piracy were reopened under human protection. Scientific expeditions were launched to dangerous areas of space with human escort vessels. The galaxy's first joint military academy was established on a human colony world. But perhaps the most important change was in how different species saw each other. The humans had proven that it was possible to be both powerful and moral, both deadly and protective. For the first time in galactic history, military strength was being used primarily to defend the weak rather than conquer them. "The humans have," shown us something we had forgotten, Counselor Vextai said in his final report to the Galactic Council. Civilization is not about being safe from violence. It is about making sure violence is only used to protect civilization. As news of Earth's new role spread through the galaxy, an interesting thing began to happen. Pirates and raiders started to disappear not because they were being destroyed, but because they were choosing to find other lines of work. The simple knowledge that humans might show up was enough to make most criminals reconsider their career choices. The galaxy was learning a new truth. Humans did not just fight monsters. They hunted them to extinction. 1 year after the Battle of Altarian Space, the galaxy had become a very different place. Admiral Daehyun Choi stood before the assembled Galactic Council in their great chamber on Consortium Prime. Representatives from over 400 species listened as he delivered what would become known as the most important speech in galactic history. "The Earth Defense Fleet did not come to your worlds to conquer them," Admiral Choi said, his words being translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. "We came because someone called for help. That is what we do. It is what we have always done. It is what we will always do." The chamber was completely silent. Everyone remembered the recordings of human ships charging straight into the Drakmori swarm, while every military expert in the galaxy said it was suicide. They remembered watching 53 human vessels destroy 800 bioships in less than 5 hours. Captain Soyeon Kim stood on the bridge of the new flagship Seoul's Honor and reviewed the latest reports from across human-protected space. 12 different star systems now hosted Earth Defense Fleet bases. Trade was flowing freely along routes that had been abandoned for decades due to pirate activity. Scientific research stations were operating in sectors that had been considered too dangerous to explore. "Captain, we are receiving another distress signal," her communications officer reported. This time the message was different. Instead of desperate pleading for help from an unknown species, it was a calm, professional transmission. "This is Captain Park of the Centaurian Defense Force. We have a pirate problem in the Outer Rim, requesting human assistance under the Galactic Defense Compact." The Sol protocols had created a new way for civilizations to deal with threats. Instead of each species trying to solve their problems alone, they could call for help from others. And when humans answered those calls, problems tended to get solved permanently. Dr. Insu Han was now serving as Earth's chief advisor on interspecies relations. His office on Consortium Prime was always busy with representatives from different worlds wanting to discuss security arrangements, trade agreements, or scientific cooperation projects. "The psychological effect continues to be remarkable," he reported to Earth Command. 17 different hostile organizations have either surrendered or completely disappeared rather than risk conflict with humans. The Crimson Raiders, who terrorized shipping lanes for 50 years, disbanded their entire fleet and became legitimate traders. The threat of human intervention has become more effective than actual intervention. Commander Jiwoo Kang was overseeing the expanded integration program at the Joint Military Academy on New Seoul, humanity's largest colony world. Officers from 67 different species were learning to work alongside human crews. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. "The aliens are not just learning our tactics," Commander Kang explained to visiting Earth officials. "They are learning our philosophy. The idea that military power should be used to protect people instead of controlling them is spreading through their home fleets." Lieutenant Colonel Minji Ko, now one of Earth's most decorated combat pilots, was training a mixed squadron of human and alien pilots. Her students included Altarians, Zephyrians, Centaurians, and even some former pirates who had decided to switch sides. "The key is not just teaching them how to fly," she explained. "It is teaching them why we fly. Humans do not fight for glory or conquest. We fight because someone needs to, and we are good at it." The transformation was visible everywhere. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled through fear for millennia, was restructuring their entire military along human principles. Instead of conquest fleets, they were creating defense forces focused on protecting trade routes and research stations. High Marshal Kethnara had become one of humanity's closest allies. "The humans taught us that true strength is not the ability "To destroy your enemies," he said in a speech to his own people. "True strength is the wisdom to know when your enemies should become your friends." Fleet Admiral Ji-ho Kim commanded the Outer Rim defense grid from his flagship Soul's Pride. The ship had been upgraded with the latest human technology and crewed by a mix of species from across the galaxy. His mission was simple but important: make sure that nowhere in known space was too dangerous for peaceful people to live and work. "Admiral, we have a situation developing in the Vega sector," his tactical officer reported. This was Yunbi Park, his old friend from their patrol days, now serving as his second-in-command. "What kind of situation, Commander?" "Long-range sensors are detecting a large fleet of unknown vessels approaching inhabited systems. The configuration does not match any known species in our databases." Ji-ho felt a familiar tightness in his stomach. New threats to galactic peace seemed to appear regularly, as if the universe was testing humanity's commitment to protecting others. "Send a message to all fleet elements. We may have another Drakmori situation developing." But when the message went out across the human communication network, something unprecedented happened. Instead of just human ships responding, vessels from dozens of other species began moving toward the Vega sector. The Galactic Defense Compact was not just words on paper. It had become a living alliance of civilizations committed to protecting each other. Captain Wu Jin Bei commanded a joint task force of human and Altarian medical ships. His mission was to provide humanitarian aid wherever it was needed. The sight of former enemies working together to help refugees had become one of the most powerful symbols of the new galactic order. "Doctor, we are receiving evacuation requests from the Vega colonies," his medical officer reported. "Should we begin moving hospital ships into position?" "Yes, but also send a message to the approaching fleet. Maybe they are not hostile. Maybe they are just lost or in need of help themselves." This had become the standard human approach to unknown contacts. Instead of assuming hostile intent, they first tried to communicate and offer assistance. It was a radical change from traditional galactic diplomacy, and it worked surprisingly often. The unknown fleet turned out to be refugees from a distant galaxy, fleeing from a threat even worse than the Drakmori swarm. Instead of invasion, they were seeking sanctuary. Instead of conquest, they were asking for help. "This is Captain Park of the Human Defense Fleet," came the transmission. "We received your distress signal. What kind of assistance do you need?" The response came in a language that no computer could translate, but the tone was unmistakable. Relief, gratitude, hope, the universal emotions that connected all intelligent life. Within weeks, the refugee fleet was integrated into galactic society. Their advanced technology was shared freely in exchange for sanctuary and protection. Their knowledge of the distant threat they had fled provided early warning for future dangers. Dr. Hyejin Yu published her comprehensive study on the psychological impact of human military doctrine. Her conclusions were groundbreaking. The human approach to conflict resolution has created a fundamental shift in how species relate to each other. For the first time in galactic history, military superiority is seen as a responsibility rather than an opportunity. The effects rippled through every aspect of interspecies relations. Trade agreements became more fair because both sides knew there was a neutral arbiter available if needed. Scientific research advanced faster because dangerous experiments could be conducted under human protection. Even art and culture flourished as different species felt safe to share their most precious traditions. Admiral Choi, now serving as Earth's senior military representative to the Galactic Council, received a final report on the status of known space. Piracy was down 94%. Interspecies conflicts had dropped to the lowest level in recorded history. Scientific discoveries were being made at an unprecedented rate because researchers could work safely in previously dangerous regions. "The transformation is complete," he announced to the Council. "The galaxy has become a place where strength serves wisdom instead of the other way around." But the most remarkable change was not in government policy or military doctrine. It was in the dreams and aspirations of young beings across the galaxy. For the first time in history, children of every species grew up knowing that if they called for help, someone would answer. And in the depths of space, predators that had terrorized civilizations for millennia quietly changed course toward distant galaxies. because everyone knew now that Earth's children did not just fight monsters. They hunted them to extinction. The age of humanity as galactic protectors had begun, and the universe would never be the same.